Hey, I'm Tim Davis, DevOps Advocate with M0, and we are back with the series here, working on the top 5 challenges with infrastructure as code. If you haven't been following along, be sure to go and check out the intro first, where we kind of talk about this series and what we're all talking about and a little bit of the pieces. That was done with the CEO of M0, Ohad Meislish. And today I am joined by a good friend of mine in the industry here and somebody who is very relevant in the past to what we're going to be talking about today. Go ahead and give yourself a little intro.
Thank you, Tim. Hey, everyone. My name is Marino Wijay. I'm a developer advocate at solo.io. I focus on a number of different areas, but more specifically the realms of app networking when it comes to things like microservices, running in Kubernetes. I deal with things like security when it comes to those microservices as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, certain things need to communicate with other things. We need to protect those traffic streams. And then I also tend to dabble into the cloud every so often. So yeah, you know, thanks for having me on, Tim. I appreciate it. Let me know what I can do.
Absolutely. And this is great because you said the magic word here. So today we're going to be talking about security. In infrastructure as code, security is a big deal. You know, a lot of the problems that we solve with M0 is kind of figuring out who deployed what and where and when. By bringing together all of your runs, you can kind of centralize that. And that way you have the ability to kind of see what's happening, keep track of everything, but also keep those guardrails on. You're able to say who can deploy what and where and when and why and all of that. And that's a big deal. So with infrastructure as code and security and stuff like that, there's a lot of different things that kind of come along. Mainly one of the big things that we have is role-based access control. And with that, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself with being able to say who's allowed to do what. Marino, in your experience, like with any product, whether it be a SaaS product or an enterprise product or what have you, how important of a piece is role-based access control inside of that?
I'd say it's critically important. Coming from the days of when I was studying networking and a little bit of the network security, there was this recurring theme of AAA or AAA, right? Authentication, authorization, then I think forgot the last accounting. And what's really important about that is, you know, you would need to know, you want to know who has access to what they are able to do, what they've done, and then be able to trace actions so that, you know, if you were to troubleshoot or debug something, you can go back in time. Where RBAC really comes into play here is that you are defining a different, like a set of groups, a set of individuals, a set of actions, and who can take those actions. So one of the best ways I addressed this was when I was in my VMware NSX days. We had some, we had some really cool technologies that allowed you to do a lot of like east-west firewalling and routing and whatnot, right in the data center, right at your virtual machine layer. But what was really interesting was there was a functionality for role-based access control where you can set up attributes to allow, let's say, certain users to take certain actions based off of maybe their Active Directory accounts against objects within the environment. And that was pretty cool. But we've come a long way. And so in the land of, let's say, service mesh where I play, one of the key components of a service mesh is being able to authorize services. And authorization comes from the ability to run something called Open Policy Agent or OPA alongside it so that you can effectively create your policies to say this resource can do that like get, set, whatever verb you want against another object, right? But you define these rules and effectively you have an enforcer out there that will make sure that these rules are always in place whenever you're trying to do something. So it's interesting how far we've come along. We've now gotten to this point where we codify a lot of our role-based access control, and we're able to get very, very granular for a lot of different use cases. But then that also increases the complexity of our security posture too, right?
Exactly right. And I love that you actually pulled up and talked about Open Policy Agent here. Now, we're not going to dive far into that because it's a teaser to one of the other sections. We will be talking in depth about Open Policy Agent, and we'll be doing that with somebody who is somewhat of an authority figure when it comes to OPA. So be sure to stay tuned and keep an eye out for that as well. Absolutely love the history and everything, and the shout out to NSX. That's kind of where we met at this point. Role-based access control is critical. Exactly what you said. Like, if it doesn't do any of it, you pretty much get knocked off of the list when a lot of folks are evaluating the product and looking into it. With role-based access control for us, we've actually gone and simplified that and kept it as easy as possible while still being able to maintain control of the workflows. So we actually really only have 4 main roles when it comes to that. We have a viewer, which kind of speaks for itself. They're allowed to go in and look at everything as a read only. We have deployer, we have admin, and then we have a planner. So a planner is kind of a step above viewer. They can actually kick off deployments, but they can't actually deploy all the way through the cloud if that deployment is set to require an approval. Now, the next couple of steps from that, a deployer and an admin, they can finish those deployments. So if something, say, stops and requires approval, those two can go ahead and approve that and complete the deployment. An admin obviously has access to either the whole organization or the whole project. But the reason for this delineation is we see that a lot of folks will open up and not require approvals on any development workloads so that they can just spin those up and spin those down all day long. The only thing they really want somebody to get involved with and take a look at is when it comes to production deployments. So that's kind of why we have that delineation set. Requiring approval is set at the project level for us, because we see that a lot of folks have their development projects and then they have their production projects. So that's a good delineation point for us. Now, in the future, we may or may not be coming out with soon new versions of our role-based access control to give you a lot more granular control. But also, that's why we have our extensibility with Open Policy Agent. Again, we'll talk about that a little more later. Now, another thing here when it comes to security is it's not just about the customers controlling their users' access. They're also concerned about us. Now, we have a couple of different deployment methodologies of SaaS, and we have a remote backend, or not a remote backend, I'm sorry. We have a self-hosted agent or runner. Now, with that, it kind of splits the responsibility. Now, there are some folks out there that are perfectly fine trusting us with their technology. And with that, that's just mainly going to be your code and your secrets, like your cloud credentials. We do have our SOC 2 Type 2 report available. And that's great for security. That covers most of the basis. We take every bit of data that we're trusted with. We take that to heart. We are in charge of that, and we do our absolute best to keep that, secure. But for some customers, that's just not the case. And we do have our self-hosted agent. Now, with that, there's a keen piece of technology that everybody keeps talking about, and there may or may not be a major conference about that we're going to next week. It'll probably be after by the time everybody else sees this. What is that technology, Marino?
Yeah, I believe it's Kubernetes.
That sounds about right. Yeah, Kubernetes. That sounds about right. Kubernetes at this point is, it is cloud. Everybody's talking about cloud native. They're talking about Kubernetes. They're talking about containers, microservices, and all this kind of stuff. Our self-hosted agent is run from a Kubernetes cluster. It used to be a duct tape and baling wire ball of, Lambda functions and an API gateway and all that kind of stuff. We had customers letting us know that, hey, they would like a Kubernetes backend, and we delivered. And we actually delivered relatively quickly. And now our self-hosted agent can be deployed into pretty much any Kubernetes cluster utilizing a Helm chart that we have. And with that, that allows you to run the backend so that your code and your secrets are kept inside of your cloud. Now, Marino, if you put your old school cloud security hat on here, what do you think, what are some of the reasons why we get pushback for saying, hey, we have to have a self-hosted agent backend, we can't trust full SaaS and things like that? What are some of the things that you've heard in the past on that?
I think a lot of it has to do with compliance and even control for that matter.
Yeah.
When you have something that's, let's say, SaaS based, you tend to not see a lot of what's going on underneath. You have a lack of ability
Yep.
to be able to troubleshoot, go deeper, and creates a little bit of a security concern altogether. Because if you're trying to trace something of an attack, you're very limited in what you can trace through, right? The compliance side of it really falls back to needing things to stay on in your own environment so that you have complete visibility as to how it operates and you have complete control over the lifecycle management behind it.
Yep.
So alongside that, right, you actually have control over what that system might be doing in terms of who it's communicating with and who it can go talk to outside of your own network for that matter. So these are some of the things I tend to think about altogether when someone wants to say, I don't want a SaaS-based service. I want something that I could self-host locally,
Right.
that I could even curate to my own needs for that matter, if needed.
That's exactly right. And that is exactly what we're hearing from customers coming through and saying, hey, I need this. I have to have this. My security folks are saying we need this. With our hybrid architecture, the only thing that's hosted in our front end is pretty much just pulling logs and showing you what's happening. It's an API front end and stuff like that. It is very minimal. We have gotten great feedback on our architecture. And in fact, it's gotten to the point where we actually have our self-hosted agent deployed into AWS GovCloud for a specific customer now. So we saw the need, we heard it, we got a lot of feedback. We worked with a few very key customers of ours, and we came through and answered in what I like to consider to be the Apple way. It may not have been first, but it's best. We tried to deliver the best product we could, and kind of came through with that. Now, we kind of talked about, overall security of role-based access control. We kind of talked about security of the actual code and secrets and stuff like that. Are you familiar with many secret managers out there that folks are using?
From what I understand, Vault is out there as one of them, through
Yep.
HashiCorp, and then AWS has their own secrets manager, and then there's I think so many others that exist out there, but those are the common ones I tend to come across when I'm working with clients or anyone in the developer community for that matter. Tends to be the
Exactly.
most easiest to get running, get up and going. I mean, AWS for that matter is highly used anyways, so naturally people are going to pick something that's in the platform. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
definitely see that. We see that a lot, and especially with vaults, a lot of our folks that are using Terraform, even though our platform supports Terraform and TerraGrunt and Pulumi in production at this point, but a lot of our Terraform customers are running Vault in the background. With our self-hosted agent, it gives our customers the ability to go through and connect to pretty much whatever secret manager they want. If they're using AWS Secret Manager, cool, they can use that. If they're using Vault, if they're on GCP or Azure and they want to utilize secret managers over there, it's great. So we have the ability to, like you mentioned, give them more control over how they're utilizing this, because with just a pure SaaS play, you don't really have a choice. You're utilizing our secret manager, which is encrypted all, at flight and at rest. Mentioned we do try to, take the best precautions we can. But a lot of folks, they want to use more control. They're coming with us with a fully fledged workflow. They're already utilizing Terraform. They're already utilizing Vault. Great. We can absolutely work with that. Here at M0, we want to make sure that we can get customers using our product with as little bumps in the road as possible. I know there are some, services out there that are very prescriptive, and they want you to kind of change the way that you do work and, fit into their way of doing things. But we're not like that. We want to kind of give you either as little as you want us to be or as much as you need us to be. And we can kind of fit into whatever workflow the customer is doing. I know that seems to be a big thing these days in a lot of the industries is, do we want to be prescriptive? Do we want to be open? Sometimes it can cause issues, but at the end of the day, it's just trying to take care of customers and give them what they're looking for with the easiest barrier to entry. Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. This was, of course, going to be nice and quick. It's always great talking to you, coming in and hearing what you have to say. Looking forward to seeing you soon. And for anybody who's looking for more, we're going to have several different pieces of this top 5 challenges for infrastructure as code. We're going to have a new guest on each one. So feel free to check back. Marino, thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you so much, Tim. Take care, everyone.
Have a great day.